Two hiking boots, soles pointing straight up from a barrel full of rotting donuts. That's what the rangers saw. And in that moment, a missing persons case that had gone cold for 9 months became something far worse, because the body in that barrel had been frozen all winter, kept on ice like a piece of meat. And the person who did it was still out there, somewhere in the Alaskan wilderness. Before we go deeper, hit subscribe if stories like this pull you in. Drop a comment, tell us where you're watching from. It means everything to see how far these reach. September 12th, 2022. Kenai River Lodge, Alaska. The rain is steady, drumming on cabin roofs. Brenda Riley has been managing this place for 20 years. She knows the rhythms, guests who sleep late, guests who skip breakfast, guests who check out without saying goodbye. But Cabin 7 is different. It's past noon. The couple from Oregon, Tessa Sullivan and Finn Hoffman, were supposed to leave by 11. Their parking spot is empty. Their key hasn't been returned. Brenda knocks. No answer. She calls their names into the rain-soaked silence. Nothing. She uses her master key. The scene inside stops her. This isn't a room that's been vacated. It's a room someone planned to come back to. A birding guidebook on the table, page marked with a coffee shop receipt. A woman's jacket draped over a chair. Toothbrushes in the bathroom cup. Shampoo bottle open in the shower. Two packed suitcases against the wall. Blue and black. Ready to go. But the people? Gone. And so is their rental car. Brenda gives them time. Maybe they lost track of hours on a final hike. It happens. But by late afternoon, the knot in her stomach tightens. She tries their cell. Straight to voicemail. 24 hours pass. The cabin stays frozen in time. Brenda makes the call she's been dreading. Alaska State Troopers, missing persons. Tessa Sullivan, 27. Finn Hoffman, 28. Last seen September 11th. All belongings left behind. Gray Ford escape, vanished. Sergeant Miles Corian gets the case. He spent his entire career in the Kenai Peninsula, and he knows what that wilderness can do. People don't just disappear here, they get swallowed. He contacts the families in Oregon. Finn's brother picks up. The confusion in his voice curdles fast into panic. Last they heard, Finn sent a text 3 days earlier. September 9th. Excited about hiking something called the Slaughter Gulch Trail. Corian sends a trooper to the trailhead. The report comes back within the hour. 4 vehicles in the parking lot. None of them is the Gray Ford escape. This is where it stops making sense. Missing hikers leave their car at the trailhead. That's the pattern. That's the starting point. But Tessa and Finn's car is a ghost. No one knows where they went. No one knows if they even made it to the trail. A helicopter makes a low pass over Slaughter Gulch. Nothing. Ground teams walk the first 2 miles. Nothing. No footprints, no water, bottles. No sign they were ever there. By evening, their faces are on the news, smiling in a photo from a hike back in Oregon. Finn's arm around Tessa. Young, alive, vibrant. Now they're just names on a missing persons bulletin. The search becomes massive. State troopers, volunteer rescue teams, K-9 units. The command post goes up in Cooper Landing, walls covered in topographical maps, grids marking search zones that grow larger every day. But every theory hits the same wall. Where's the car? Investigators build profiles. Tessa was a graphic designer, meticulous, organized, the planner. Finn was a software engineer, spontaneous, adventurous, the dreamer. They were experienced hikers in the Cascades, fit, prepared, smart. But Alaska isn't the Cascades. Alaska doesn't forgive mistakes. The search is brutal. September rain turns to sleet. The mountains turn white. Searchers push through thickets of alder and devil's club, shouting names that get swallowed by wet foliage. The dogs struggle. The scent is everywhere and nowhere. Then, day 8, a flicker of hope. A gas station 60 miles south. The attendant calls in. He saw them. He's sure of it. Young guy with a mustache, dark-haired woman. They bought coffee and a map, asked about back roads to the coast. They were driving a gray SUV. The lead feels real, tangible. Corian diverts a team. 2 troopers make the 90-minute drive. They arrive to find the attendant eager but vague. The timeline is fuzzy, and when they try to pull security footage, the system glitches. The entire day's recordings are corrupted, static and frozen frames. The lead dies, hours wasted, morale crushed. September bleeds into October. The search teams shrink as volunteers return to their lives. The media coverage fades. The maps on the command post walls fill with red ink. Sectors cleared, nothing found. The snow line creeps down the mountains. Every day colder. Every day darker. Mid-October, Sergeant Corian makes the announcement. The active search is suspended. Winter has won. The families back in Oregon are shattered. The acute anxiety of searching replaced by the dull, permanent ache of not knowing. Winter locks the Kenai Peninsula in silence, a white blanket hiding whatever happened to Tessa and Finn. 9 months pass. June 5th, 2023. Ranger Elias Vance is driving a service road deep in the Kenai National Wildlife Refuge. He's checking bear baiting stations before the hunting season opens. Routine work. Necessary but unglamorous. He parks where the road dies and continues on foot. Game trail winding through dense spruce. The air cool and still under the canopy. He's heading for station KB-117, isolated. The kind of place that attracts problems. Then he smells it. Sweet. Sickly. Like a bakery dumpster left in the sun. Wrong. He slows. Every sense on alert. He breaks through a screen of young spruce into a clearing. What he sees makes no sense. A massive blue barrel on its side. From its mouth spills a mountain of rotting pastries. Donuts, bear claws, thousands of them. Now a moldering, fly-covered mass. Feed corn mixed in, spreading across the moss. The pile is absurd, excessive, bizarre. But underneath the sugar rot, there's another smell. Faint, acrid, chemical but organic. He knows this smell. Decay. Not food. Something else. He approaches the barrel. The flies are thickest at the opening. He holds his breath and looks inside. His brain struggles to process the shapes. Pulpy pastries, yellow corn, and then 2 black hiking boots, soles pointing up, attached to legs in dark mud-stained pants. The rest of the body is submerged in the foul slurry. Vance recoils, steps back fast, his heart hammering. He's no longer a ranger checking bait. He's the first officer at a crime scene. He backs to the clearing's edge, gets on the radio, voice strained, requesting immediate assistance. Code 1054, dead body. The wait is 40 minutes. The longest of his life. He stands at the edge, eyes fixed on that blue barrel. The forest that was his sanctuary now feels menacing. The buzzing flies the only sound. When Sergeant Corian arrives, he feels it immediately. The déjà vu. He spent weeks searching for 2 missing people in this wilderness. And now, 9 months later, the wilderness is offering an answer. The recovery is slow, grim, meticulous. Crime lab team flown in by helicopter. They photograph everything. The barrel, the bait, the insects. Finally, they remove the body, male. Fully clothed in hiking gear ravaged by moisture and decay. 2 days later, Corian sits at his desk staring at the preliminary report. Dental records confirm it. Finn Hoffman. But here's where everything shatters. The medical examiner is unequivocal on 2 points. First, cause of death. Not an animal attack, not an accident. Massive blunt force trauma to the back of the head. Murder. Second, time of death versus decomposition. The body shows signs of being exposed to elements for maybe 1 to 2 weeks, not 9 months. For the other 8.5 months, Finn Hoffman's body was preserved somewhere cold, frozen. The implications hit like a freight train. Finn and Tessa didn't get lost. They met a killer. A killer who murdered Finn, stored his body all winter like meat in a freezer, then dumped it in the most remote, bizarre location imaginable. This isn't a tragic accident. This is calculated homicide. And if the killer kept Finn on ice all winter, one question eclipses everything else. Where is Tessa Sullivan? The investigation explodes back to life. Maps go back on the walls. But the grids are different now. They're not searching for lost hikers. They're hunting a killer and a second victim. Two possibilities haunt the team. Either Tessa met the same fate and her body is still hidden. Or, and this is somehow worse, she was involved. The bait station KB-117 is registered to Silas Croft, 58 years old, hunting outfitter, cantankerous, solitary, minor run-ins over regulations. Exactly the type who might have skills to avoid detection. They bring him in. He's annoyed, defensive, arms crossed. His story is simple. He hasn't used that station since last autumn. Says other hunters illegally dump bait at established sites. Calls it piggybacking. His alibi for late May? Vague. He lives alone, works on equipment, scouts locations, can't prove where he was on any specific day. They search his property and truck. Nothing. No blood, no cleaning products, no connection to the couple. Silas Croft stays a person of interest. Frustratingly plausible, but unprovable. The forensic team turns to the barrel. Standard 55-gallon drum. Weathered, scratched. Under high-intensity light, they find a faded inventory stamp near the base. Kasloff Seafoods, a fish processing plant that went bankrupt over a decade ago. The bait undergoes microscopic examination. Most is generic feed corn, untraceable. But the pastries are different. One type stands out, raspberry-filled sugar-dusted squares, manufactured by a specific commercial bakery in Anchorage. This is the breakthrough. Two investigators start the grind. They trace the distribution network. Call every store on the Kenai Peninsula, looking for someone who sold a massive quantity of these specific pastries. Days of phone calls, driving to grocery stores, gas stations, convenience marts. Most managers have no memory of large transactions. Many don't even carry the item. The lead dissolves into dead ends and shrugs. The case is awash in bizarre details. A defunct fish plant. A specific donut. But nothing connects into a coherent picture. Then the Alaskan summer peaks. Nearly 20 hours of sunlight. The wilderness more accessible than it's been in a year. And the renewed media attention brings something else. Public vigilance. People start re-examining old memories. July 10th, 2023. Two brothers from Anchorage are fishing at Tustamina Lake. Trophy lake trout. Unpredictable conditions. They choose a secluded cove on the southern shore, accessed by rough logging roads, a spot they found on a satellite map. As they prepare their boat, one brother looks out over the water. Something glints, about 30 yards from shore, 15 feet deep. The lake is exceptionally clear, low morning sun penetrating deep. He stares. At first it looks like scrap metal, old engine block, part of a wrecked snowmobile. But the shape resolves itself. Smooth, boxy, unnaturally uniform. It looks like the roof of a vehicle. Cold dread settles over them. They know about the missing couple. They know a gray SUV vanished almost a year ago. With trembling hands, they call 911. When Corian gets the call, adrenaline surges. The location is miles from any paved road. Over 50 miles by road from Slaughter Gulch, a difficult 30-mile cross-country trek from the bait station. The locations form a strange, illogical triangle on the map. A specialized dive team arrives late afternoon. The cove is cordoned off. Crime scene. Two divers slip into frigid glacier-fed water. Helmet-mounted cameras relay ghostly images to a monitor on shore. It's a vehicle. Mid-sized SUV, resting upright on the lakebed like it was gently placed there. A diver wipes algae and silt from the rear license plate. The numbers come into view. Gray Ford Escape, rented by Finn Hoffman and Tessa Sullivan. The recovery takes a full day. Industrial tow truck, long-reach crane, heavy-duty straps. With a groan of straining metal and churning water, the Ford Escape is winched from the lake. It emerges dripping, covered in weeds and slime. A metal coffin that held secrets for 10 months. The interior is destroyed, waterlogged upholstery, decaying material. But investigators know one thing might be protected: the GPS unit inside the dashboard, the factory-installed navigation system. The screen is dead, but the internal memory is in a sealed module. They extract it carefully, fly it to the state's digital forensics lab. Days later, the call comes. They bypass the water damage, extracted fragmented data from the solid-state memory. A partial travel log from September 9, 2022, the last day the system was active. The data tells a story that shatters everything. The vehicle never traveled towards Slaughter Gulch Trail. Never. Instead, the GPS shows a route turning off the main highway onto logging roads leading to Tustamina Lake. The final recorded pings place the vehicle directly at the remote cove where it was discovered. They drove themselves to the place where their car was scuttled. Corian pulls property ownership maps. The GPS data shows the Ford Escape's last position at the very boundary of a large privately owned tract, over 100 acres of dense forest. He runs the owner's name, Alastair Finch. On a hunch, he pulls the old Kasloff Seafoods bankruptcy file. Cross-references the liquidation auction from over a decade ago. His finger runs down the list of buyers. There. Alastair Finch purchased 3 pallets of miscellaneous equipment, including, according to the manifest, assorted plastic drums and barrels. The barrel from the woods, the car from the lake, both pointing to one man, one piece of land. Alastair Finch is a ghost in the system, 68 years old, no criminal record. He bought the 120-acre parcel 20 years ago. Cash. Property tax records his only footprint. No hunting licenses, no fishing licenses. Completely off-grid. A trooper makes discreet inquiries in the nearest town. The postmaster? The general store owner? The picture that emerges is consistent. Finch comes to town every few weeks, pays in cash, brief interactions, no pleasantries, quiet, gaunt, perpetually wary. The store owner recalls local rumors. Man traps on his property. Deterrence for trespassers. People say he moved to Alaska after a tragedy, lost his wife and child in a car accident, seeking solace in total isolation. The pieces lock into place. GPS data puts the couple's car at Finch's property edge. The barrel type matches what he purchased. The man himself is a paranoid recluse. Corian compiles the affidavit, lays out every piece. Discovery of Finn's body, GPS logs, auction manifest. A judge signs the warrant without hesitation. The raid is planned with tactical precision. Finch's paranoia, potential for him to be armed, 6 troopers. Tactical unit. They stage a few miles away, plan their approach for dawn. As the sun casts pale light over the mountains, the vehicles roll to a stop at Finch's property edge. Crude, hand-painted sign, No trespassing. They move in on foot, spreading through dense woods. The cabin appears in a small, messy clearing. Simple log structure. Smoke curling from the chimney. Corian hails the cabin, announces their presence. The search warrant. No response. The tactical team breaches the door. They find Alastair Finch sitting at a small table. Cup of coffee in his hands. He shows no surprise, no fear, no anger. He looks up at the armed troopers with weary resignation, like he's been expecting them for months. The search begins. While Finch sits under guard, troopers work through the cabin and outbuildings. In a rickety shed behind the main cabin, they find it. A large commercial-grade chest freezer, running, motor humming. A trooper opens the heavy lid. Empty, but recently cleaned. Inexpertly cleaned. A forensic technician sprays the interior with luminol. The freezer lights up with unmistakable blue-green glow. Chemical residue indicating significant blood presence. The most damning discovery comes from a padlocked storage locker built into the cabin's side. After cutting the lock, a trooper swings the door open. Dark. Smells of mildew. In the corner, behind old tarps, a small, faded turquoise backpack. Corian opens it carefully. Trail bars, insect repellent, and a wallet. He opens it. The driver's license stares back at him. Tessa Sullivan's face. The silent standoff ends. Corian places the turquoise pack on the table in front of Finch. For the first time, emotion crosses his face. A deep, shuddering sigh of defeat. The dam breaks. He begins to speak. Voice dry, emotionless monotone, like recounting a story that happened to someone else. September 9th of the previous year, he heard a vehicle near his property edge, went to investigate. Carrying his rifle, as always. Found the gray Ford Escape. Wheels sunk in mud. A young couple trying to dig it out. They looked relieved to see him. Asked to use a phone. Asked for help pulling them out. Finch, his mind steeped in paranoia and fierce territoriality, saw them not as people in need, but as intruders. A threat. He refused. Ordered them off his land. An argument started. According to Finch, Finn became angry, frustrated, yelling at him, lack of compassion. Finch claims Finn took a step toward him, lunging. In that moment of perceived threat, Finch reacted. He didn't fire the rifle. He swung it like a club, struck Finn squarely in the back of the head. Finn collapsed, instantly still. Finch describes the aftermath with chilling detachment. He knew he'd killed him. He turned the rifle on Tessa, screaming, hysterical. Forced her back to his cabin, locked her inside. Then he went back for Finn's body, loaded it onto a tarp, dragged it to the large freezer in his shed, put the body inside, locked it. Then he drove the couple's Ford Escape to the deep cove on the lake, let it roll into the water, watched it sink beneath the surface. He held Tessa captive through the entire fall, through the long, dark winter. He never explains why, just a vague sense that he couldn't let her go, that she was now part of the terrible secret he had to keep. Then in late May, as the world outside began to thaw, she saw her chance. While Finch was outside chopping wood, she forced a window open, fled, disappeared into the vast, unforgiving wilderness surrounding the property. Finch searched for her for a day, then gave up. He knew with the thaw he couldn't keep Finn's body in the freezer indefinitely. He panicked, loaded the frozen body into his truck, drove it to the remote bait station, dumped it in the barrel, surrounded it with bait in a desperate, foolish hope that bears would find it and destroy the evidence. He tells investigators he has no idea what happened to Tessa after she ran. He just knows she was gone. Alastair Finch is arrested, transported to Anchorage, his isolated world now a sterile interrogation room. Back at his property, a new search begins. This one different, targeted, grim. They're searching for Tessa Sullivan's remains. Based on Finch's account of the direction she fled, Corian establishes a 5-mile radius around the cabin. Vast, punishing terrain, dense forest, swampy muskeg, steep rocks. For weeks, search teams guided by trackers and cadaver dogs meticulously comb the area. Grueling work. The same unforgiving wilderness Tessa tried to navigate, terrified and alone. The hope of finding her alive is gone. This is recovery, bringing her home. Early August, nearly a year after she disappeared, a search team working a steep, thickly wooded ravine about 4 miles northeast of Finch's cabin finds it. One of the dogs gives a strong alert near a large fallen spruce tree. Under the massive roots, searchers find a crude makeshift shelter. Broken branches, packed moss. And inside, what's left of Tessa Sullivan. Skeletal remains identified through dental records. Examination tells the final chapter. Evidence at the scene suggests she survived for several days after her escape, perhaps even a week. Remnants of edible berries, the shelter. But her Pacific Northwest hiking knowledge was no match for Alaska. Weakened by months of captivity, no proper gear, no food. She succumbed to hypothermia and starvation. Alastair Finch is charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder, one for intentionally killing Finn, another for felony murder. Tessa's death a direct result of kidnapping her. Also charged with kidnapping and tampering with evidence. Faced with insurmountable physical evidence and his own detailed confession, Finch offers no defense. Pleads guilty to all charges. In the courtroom, he's a hollowed-out figure. A man who retreated from the world so completely, he destroyed 2 lives that accidentally stumbled into it. Sentenced to life without parole. Condemned to spend the rest of his days in a different isolation. One of concrete and steel instead of trees and silence. The case is closed, but there's no peace. For the families, the final horrific details are a new trauma layered on grief. The story is no longer about tragedy. It's about monstrous violence born from one man's paranoia. Thanks for watching. If this story affected you, like and subscribe for more true mysteries every week. Tell us where you're watching from in the comments. Until next time, stay curious and stay safe. Because sometimes the wilderness isn't what kills you. Sometimes it's the person living in it, watching the world through suspicious eyes, seeing threats where there's only people asking for help.